podcast where we feature top founders and experts in the e-commerce industry, and we go behind the scenes of the struggles and successes in growing a brand. This episode is brought to you by Chronos.agency. If you're in a D2C e-com brand that is ready to scale and to double your customer lifetime value through owned marketing, Chronos is your company. We've helped hundreds of brands scale profits with email, SMS, and mobile push marketing while getting an average of 3,500% ROI from our efforts. We've worked with brands like Truly Beauty, The Udi, Elias Skin, and many more. The next step is to email us at sales@chronos.agency, or you can go to chronos.agency to learn more. And this episode is also brought to you by Build, Grow, Scale Live, or BGS Live, the largest live e-commerce conference in North America, happening January 10th to 12th, 2022, live in Dallas, Texas, the biggest e-com conference, first of its kind since COVID started. So I'm super excited. And today's guest is none other than Tanner Larsson himself. He is the founder and CEO at BGS, a revenue optimization agency. He also runs an e-commerce business accelerator that has birthed over 17 eight-figure entrepreneurs over the last 24 months, I believe. And he's also the author of the Ecommerce Evolved book. Some call it the e-commerce Bible, subtitled The Essential Playbook to Build, Grow, and Scale a Successful Ecommerce Business. Highly recommend reading the book. It is newly revised for 2021 and newly expanded as well. So it's completely different. Go to Amazon or go to Tanner, what is it? ecommerceevolvedbook.com to check it out. That's it. Perfect. Tanner has been also has been in the e-commerce scene since 2002, right after eBay started, right after it launched. So Tanner is one of the OGs in the space. And I've been hearing all about Build, Grow, Scale since the day I started my business and even before that. So I'm super excited to have you on my show. Tanner, welcome. And tell us a little bit more about your background. As succinctly as you can. That's going to be a long episode.
Yeah, it's a really long episode.
Yeah.
Okay, so but thanks for having me. Excited to be here. When we got to connect before, I was super excited. We had a great conversation, so I knew this episode would be a lot of fun. But yeah, like you said, I'm the CEO and founder of Build, Grow, Scale. We are an e-commerce optimization company. We did not start out to be an e-commerce optimization company. We've owned our own brands. We've done our own product. Like basically, I've done everything from product design through OEM manufacturing. I've owned my own fulfillment warehouse. We've done private labeling. We've done arbitrage. We've done drop shipping. We've done all of it. And owning our own funnel-based brands, our own e-com store brands. Basically, I've run the gamut. I've been an eBay power seller, sold on Etsy. Like I've kind of done all of it. And but it was always from the act of doing. I've always had the businesses. I've always built the businesses. And as we were doing that, everybody's like, well, what are you doing? I'm like, well, this is how I'm doing it. They're like, oh, that's cool. Can you teach me? And then so it started turning into whatever I was doing when it was working, people were asking me, and that kind of evolved into us teaching what we do. And that's evolved over time. But the real change and the real thing that kind of put BGS when we went from being like Tanner Larsson to Build, Grow, Scale was when we discovered what we now call revenue optimization, which is our variation on conversion rate optimization. And that happened, which is actually very germane to the time that we're in right now, which is ads don't work, right? Then all of a sudden they don't work again. And what happened? Things were great. So we were going through a time where we were scaling a kitchen brand that my partner and I owned. And we were scaling it. It was doing great. We started it out 10, 15 sales a day, rapidly scaled it up to thousands of sales a day. We would get a shipping container in, it'd unload, and it would go back out into the mail stream the same day. And that was happening every single day. We couldn't even keep up. We had hyperbolic growth, crazy fast growth. That's an entire episode by itself because hyper growth will actually bankrupt you. And which most people don't think. They think hyper growth is great, but it's actually very dangerous. But anyway, so we were growing super fast. Everything was great. And then something happened. Facebook changed. The algorithm changed. And all of a sudden, went from thousands of sales a day to hundreds of sales a day. We kept trying stuff, kept doing things. And then all of a sudden we're back in 10, 15 sales a day with the spend and the inventory and the infrastructure of a business selling thousands a day. So I was losing $200,000 a month trying to keep this business afloat while Matt and I were trying to figure things out. And that was when we kept throwing new apps on the store, trying new advertising methods, trying all the stuff that everybody does, basically throwing shit at the wall. And then we finally figured out that, hey, maybe there's something else that's the problem. And that was when we turned our attention to the actual store. And then we started looking at data and everything else. And all of a sudden we realized, hang on, we're still getting plenty of traffic. The problem is we can't digest that traffic. So instead of having a starvation problem, which is what we always think we have, starvation meaning you have a traffic problem, we didn't have a traffic problem. We had a digestion problem of all of a sudden, 100 people come to our site, only one is buying. That means we can't digest the traffic we're getting. And that was like an open eye experience, our big epiphany, aha. And at the time, nobody was doing data. Nobody really looked at this stuff. And we started diving into that and we became really students of the data. And that's where our methodology has arisen from. We've become data geeks. Our entire company is nothing but data geeks. And when you really dive into the data at a very deep level through Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager, you can find all the issues that are preventing your store from digesting the traffic. And if you fix those digestion issues, all of a sudden, traffic's no longer a problem. And the reason I say all that is because that's exactly the point we're in right now in this market. All of a sudden, iOS 14 is rolled out. iOS 15 is in the beginning stages right now. Advertisers cannot function. There's a big group of advertisers that just got together at a big event down in California. All of them sitting in the room. I think you were there, right? They're all in the room and they're all saying, what do we do? They're not acting like, oh, we're crushing it, we're doing this. Everybody was scared. All the advertisers don't know what the hell to do. And that's not their fault. It's because Facebook pulled the rug and they got to figure it out. But that brings up a whole other time. Now we've adapted or we've changed. Now we have to adapt. And a business that tries to profit from the first sale and doesn't have an optimized site and an optimized back end, which between the two of us, our companies do exactly that, right? They're not going to succeed in this new post iOS future. You can't. It will be impossible to succeed. So anyway, there's my ramble. It was a little longer than you wanted, I know, but now we can go into whatever questions you have.
No, that's good. That's good. I like that. Let me unpack that a little bit. Sure. Revenue optimization. Tell me a little bit more about that framework that you've built over the years have generated over $500 million in sales. And we
kind of quit counting. It's way bigger, but like that's a good number. It's almost
definitely
unfathomable anyway. So
most definitely way more than $500 million in sales. Just I would believe over the last 3 years alone.
About probably 3 years. I mean, we've done. If you take it longer, it gets stupid. So
it gets insane.
But I want to qualify that. We do have some big companies in there. It's not all like mom and pop shops, but still, it's a massive number.
That's a good thing that you mentioned that as well. So a lot of people might be listening to this and thinking, oh, this only works for like small little companies and not for large scale operations. But that's not true. You work with businesses of all sizes and all kinds.
Yes, and what you just mentioned, that's actually funny. We have had a lot of people come to us and they're like, man, I was following you for 2 or 3 years, and I always thought you only worked with the big guys. I thought I was too small to work with you guys. And we're like, oh man, we missed the mark in our messaging then, because we're definitely not. I mean, we actually, within the Build, Grow, Scale ecosystem, we have we actually broke our business up into 3 sections, right? Build, grow, and scale. So we have the build functionality for the beginners and the startups. We have the grow functionality for the mid-level businesses and the people who've got sales, but they just haven't hit that growth curve yet. And then we have Amplify, or Scale, which is our amplified program, which is for the businesses that have grown and they're ready to really scale. So we definitely help all 3. But to answer your question, yes, revenue optimization is infinitely important to all 3 levels. You can't scale without it. And in today's market, you really can't build or grow without it either. Used to be, you could build a store, throw up some crap, plenty of drop ship courses out there that told you how to throw up a crappy store, run some ads to it, and you'd make some money. That day is gone. Like, unfortunately, that's gone. And the growth phase, the people in the mid range, I'm saying the people doing 5,000, 10,000 up to say maybe 100,000 or more a month, you're kind of in that growth phase. If you're under about I'd say about $500 to $600,000 a month, you're not ready to scale. So you're in that grow phase still. But in that range, you can't survive in today's marketplace either, because you were profiting, you were making money, you built the overhead up and your company growth to kind of support that phase and that scale that you're at. And now all of a sudden, your advertising is 10 times more expensive than it was 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Well, your models and your numbers they can't account for that. So revenue optimization is literally the only thing that a business can use to flip that script again and get it back on top.
Tanner, what exactly is revenue optimization?
So
how do you break that down?
Revenue optimization is the best way to look at it is a holistic approach to the buyer's journey, to optimizing every single aspect of the store and the buyer's journey. So the other terminology that people use a lot, and they talk about us too, is conversion rate optimization. Now, I'm not here to knock conversion rate optimization. It's where we started. It's a great model. There's a lot of good elements of it. The problem that we found with it and why we developed and kind of spun off and figured out our own way was it was very limiting. And it was also very tunnel vision. Conversion rate is truthfully, when you look at the other deeper metrics of your store, in many cases, it's a vanity metric. It's really not the most important metric. And as an example, I can give you a massive conversion rate. Just let me drop your price and keep dropping your price. Now, your conversion rate goes up, but your revenue goes down. You make less money. You're not profitable. So there's a sweet spot for that for sure. But until everything else is optimized in the buyer's journey, the conversion rate is really not the focus. And CRO also focuses, it's just very, very tunnel vision. And they also focus a lot of times because most CRO agencies, I'm not going to say all, but most CRO experts out there do not have the true deep understanding of data. They know, I would say there's surface level data, which is what you get out of your Shopify account or your Facebook ad account. Then there's secondary layer data that you get from the very top level of Google Analytics, right? Or if you're using Hyros, that's your secondary data layer. Third is deeper, fourth, fifth, sixth, but it keeps going. And to really understand optimization, you got to be able to go 8, 10, 12, 15 layers deep to find out when I make this change, yes, my conversion rate goes up, but what else is effective negatively or what else is effective positively? And CRO doesn't really do that. Revenue optimization, on the other hand, is a holistic approach to optimizing the entire buyer's journey in a kind of a holistic and I really hate this word, but synergistic approach. Everybody uses it as like a buzzword, but I don't mean it that way. But it all works together. And the other example, or I can give you of that is like a real live one, is in-cart upsell apps, right? On Shopify, everybody wants to increase their average order value, which is a critical metric, especially in today. That's great. Now, all these upsell apps and bumps and things that have been created typically focus on creating increases to the average order value by adding a bump offer inside the shopping cart. Now, from a top level view, that makes sense. Okay. The buyer just added something to cart. They're in the cart. Perfect time to offer them something else. Right now. Yeah. And then guess what? You look at your Shopify dashboard, your app dashboard, and guess what it says? It's working. And then you see that green arrow on your Shopify average order value and you see it's up 5%. And you're like, yes, I'm doing it. Okay. Yeah. But here's what they don't know is this, because they can't go deep enough in their data. They don't know that while yes, almost all cart or in-cart apps or any kind of order bump apps, yes, they will increase your average order value. Of course they will. They're there. But what you don't realize is that in almost all cases, they also decrease your reach checkout and decrease your conversion rate. Right. So you get a little bump in average order value, but the loss you get from the not as many people reaching checkout and not as many people actually checking out is bigger than the gain you get. So you actually went negative, even though you got a gain in your average order value. And every single, I can't say every, I know one test that we've run out of like thousands where that's not been the case. Now, of course, the apps aren't going to tell you that because obviously it's not in their best interest, and realistically, it's not that it's not even in their best interest. They don't know. They're app builders. They don't know their data. They just know how to attribute a sale when a sale is made. But nobody goes that deep. So that's something where the data really gets in. That's what revenues optimization is all about. How do we maximize the revenue and the money that goes into your pocket, not just the vanity metrics that don't really matter?
That's really, really interesting. From the point of view of a business owner, from a brand owner's point of view, coming into this, it's very overwhelming, from like working on product development to logistics to scaling the business and thinking about the different channels that are involved. If they weren't working with BGS or any other CRO agency, what is the first few steps that you recommend someone take to move in the right direction when it comes down to identifying these gaps that you just talked about?
Yeah. So there's a couple different ways you can do it. One of the easiest ways to get started in this is to use some form of heat mapping session recording software. Lucky Orange, Hotjar, Microsoft just released Clarity, which is pretty cool too. And so that's one of the first things. Now, nobody knows how to use this because they don't want to take the time to learn it. Now, everybody puts a heat map on their site and they're like, oh, cool, heat mapping. But if you don't know what you're looking for, that doesn't really help you. The real value is in looking at your store data and seeing like, my add to cart rate's only 4%, which if you have a 4% add to cart rate, that's insanely low. But let's say 4%. Okay, well, I don't know why. Well, if I go into my session recording, which actually creates a little recording of every visitor that's on your site, and then you go in there and you watch a few hundred or a few thousand of those session recordings of the add to cart button and the product page, you probably start seeing a pattern of what's going on. You're like, oh man, I didn't realize people were doing that. So then you can go fix whatever that is. That's the easiest level. It can be also very powerful, and it can be used in conjunction with data and everything else to be really powerful. And that's what we do. But that's easy. Anybody can do that. The next thing they can do is they can go buy user tests. Where you can go to Try My UI or usertesting.com or some of these different sites and give specific requirements to people in your demographic and have them to do certain things on the site and record themselves doing it and explaining it. And if you do enough of those the right way, you can learn a ton. It's very valuable. But again, you got to kind of know what to do. But ultimately, it all comes down to you can't optimize or change anything without data. Okay. The whole what gets measured gets improved kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, if you're not measuring, how can you improve?
Yeah. Makes sense.
You can't. You're basically just, again, throwing shit at a wall or holding your breath and hoping and praying, right? So data is one thing that every site, I don't care. Now, I shouldn't say if you are brand spanking new, getting your site set up and you don't have any
my next question,
or budget, then you don't need the data as quickly. You need to kind of get things working and actually just get things moving. Now, my opinion, having done it all different ways, I would never launch a new store without Google Analytics set up at all. Because the thing about Google Analytics is, number one, it's the only accurate data you have. Your Facebook data is not accurate. Your Google Ads data is not accurate. Neither is your Shopify data. So the most accurate data layer is going to be in your Google Analytics. Now, even if you don't know how to set all the rest of it up, the thing about your Google Analytics data is it's forward reporting. So it only collects data from the day it's installed forward. It can't be installed and then go backwards and collect. So every day you don't have it, it's data you're not collecting that you can't later analyze or have someone analyze or whatever. So the sooner you get that in there, the better. Even if, again, you don't know how to analyze it, just get it set up correctly and don't mess with it and let it collect. But learning how to read the data and how to do that is one of the most important things of any brand. And it will honestly, it is the secret from taking a brand that's struggling at $5,000 to $10,000 a month to taking them to 100,000 or more. We've got tons and tons of case studies and stories and testimonials from people, that we've done that with. I mean, in bigger brands, we do the same thing. Like, took one brand that she was doing about $70,000 a month, and then, let's see, last year she hit her first $3 million month, and that was over. So it can be done with whatever. But that's not possible without the data. We took another brand from $200K a month to $4 million a month in 7 months. And the only reason it took 7 months was we broke their supply chain 3 times. So you can go really fast when you have the data. The problem is people don't want to spend money on the data because they're like, I got to buy money on traffic. So I can't afford to pay someone to install my Google Analytics or set that up, or they don't see it as a value-added expense. When you're going to buy traffic and you're going to waste all that money on traffic, and then you're not going to have anything to show for it when they don't convert and you don't have the data. But people don't look at it that way because it's not sexy, it's intimidating, and they're like, I'm not going to use it.
Yeah.
So that's the big thing. That's very, very important. Now, one of the things that we do at Build, Grow, Scale inside of our Ecom Insider program is since we test so much, I mean, we're talking about, like you said, $500 million worth of results, but all that's backed by ungodly amounts of testing, data, split testing, analyzation, whatever. And then when we have one win, we test it across all the stores in our network. So now it doesn't always win across all those stores, but we find out very quickly what works and what doesn't in different niches. Now, all of that information gets packaged and broken down into easy use chunks, and we teach that to our students. So there's a way to get the information for people without having to learn all the expertise. But if you're not doing that, and I'm not saying you have to join our program or anything, but again, if I could tell anybody the most important thing that I learned about building an e-commerce business, aside from having a good product and all of that kind of stuff, like that's a given, is the data.
Guys, if you're listening to this and you're thinking, oh, holy shit, that's a lot of work and a lot of
It is. Business
ideas.
Is a lot of work.
It is. And the easiest way to kind of navigate through this whole process is to join Ecom Insiders. I'm just saying this from an outsider's point of view. The amount of data and information and ideas and tests that you guys have done and have is insane. And a single brand owner would never be able to access that amount of ideas and insights alone.
Not in a lifetime.
I think that the leverage there is information, and speed of information is where it's key. It's the same with us. Like the amount of tests that we conduct across our brands is leveraged and compounded across all our different brands. Like if it's if one split test is winning with brand A, we're going to try that same test across different brands where it makes sense, and we feed all of that information back into our community. We don't have an accelerator program, so it's all free at the moment. But I 100% agree.
Have what you have without the testing. Your agency would not be successful without iterative testing and all the data that you're collecting and analyzing.
100%.
It's the same with your store.
That is exactly it, and it's that a lot of people don't like that idea because it's just so boring. Like, what's the secret to success? It's
boring shit. So let's talk about
boring shit. Yeah,
to success for a second. Let's touch on that. This drives me nuts. All right.
Yeah.
I've been in the business world for a long time. I started my first business in 2001, which literally in this world of internet makes me a dinosaur. Old, right? Okay. So we're talking that's 20, almost 22 years, right? Of this stuff, 21 years of this stuff. Now, I've been working with entrepreneurs for a really long time doing this kind of stuff. I've coached and worked with thousands and thousands of people. And it's always like, what's the secret? What's the magic button? What's the one thing? How do I do this? It's like I literally want to just slap people. And I'm kind of giving all of you guys listening to this a virtual slap, even though you're not on my podcast, you're on Joshua's, but I want to just slap you all across the face and say, wake the heck up. Think about this. Business is hard. If it wasn't hard, everybody would have a big business, okay? It's supposed to be hard. Life is also not supposed to be easy. Like, I'm not saying you have to make your life hard on you, but the people who put in the hard stuff and don't try to take the easy path everywhere are the ones that have what you want and get where you want to be. Now, a perfect example of this is the best basketball players in the world, Jordan, right? Ask Jordan what his secret to success is. Ask Kobe, ask any of these guys, LeBron. Fundamentals. Over and over and over again. It's the fundamentals. It's mastering the fundamentals and practicing them over and over again. I'm a competitive pistol shooter. I have been for over 20, actually more than that, 25 years now. I used to be ranked in the top 1% of the world when I was shooting heavily and loved it. Great sport. Now, in the top 1% of the world, I was at the bottom of that 1%. It was like starting over again, right? There's guys in that 1% that I've never beat in my life because they're just that good. And what makes them different than what I have? They literally have the fundamentals mastered at such a high level that they're almost unconsciously robotic in their movements and their actions and the way that they do things. It's not their fancy jump shot or their fancy way to quickly aim or check it or pull the trigger. It's literally just the fundamentals mastered. Okay.
Right.
Same thing was in my world. Same thing in business. Business is not sexy. Money is sexy, but the thing that gets you to the sexy is the boring stuff. Okay. 6-pack abs, shredded body, big butt for girls, whatever, toned legs, all that's sexy. But the work that it requires to get there, the dieting, the clean eating, the working out, the sweating, smelling nasty, and all that stuff, it's not sexy. But the end result is sexy, right?
Yeah.
This is business, guys. Wake the frick up and do it and put the work in. One of my best friends and also a client and a student of ours is Devin Davis. He owns a great jewelry company and a phenomenal email marketer. Actually, he gets about 40% of his daily revenue from email. Yes, phenomenal. Actually, he teaches email in our programs now because he's gotten so good. Now, he didn't start that way. He did the boring work and decided he was going to make email work. But one of the things that he says is, don't treat your business like microwave popcorn, because it's not good and it's never going to come. And you're like, but like, here's the thing: you put it in the microwave and you pop and you push popcorn to pop it, and then it goes for about 5 or 6 seconds. And you open the door and you take it out and you go, "Is it ready?" No, okay, no, put it back in. And you keep doing that, and you're like, now, if you just let it go and you kept letting it do its thing, eventually it's going to pop, right? And you're going to get the result you want. He said, but everybody in this e-com world is literally just opening the door every 5.5 seconds and trying to, maybe if I push a different button, that'll work. Maybe if I do this, maybe if I turn it over, maybe all this stuff. And I love the way he says that, but he's like, all it is doing the grunt work, doing the unsexy, and he calls it EDD, every damn day. Yeah. And in our world, there's two things. We have get shit done. That's what the GSD stands for on that plaque back there. It is the war cry of BGS and our ecom insiders and everything. Everything revolves around get shit done. There's all these white pack things back there. Those are all get shit done reports that we mail out every month. But we say get shit done. And then Devin added every damn day. If you do that, you're going to be successful. But looking for magic buttons and wondering why it doesn't work and trying to, find the next magic thing, that's just not going to get you there. And I know we're not on a tangent. I'm sorry.
No, that's good. I 100% agree. I think the patience and just focus on fundamentals is going to pay off in the long run. And that's what stays, regardless of what changes in the algorithms, the platforms, and all the different stuff that's popping up right now.
Advertising, marketing, optimization, copywriting, all that stuff. It's the same. It's the basics that you keep repeating and refining and dialing in that actually make it work.
Talk to me about the revised version of Ecommerce Evolved.
So that's my very casually placed book back here. I don't know how to decorate an office or make it look fancy like everybody else has. Everybody else has these amazing backgrounds.
I know.
And mine looks like crap. But I popped the book up because that made me look like an interior designer. But this is the book. Originally wrote it in 2016 and sold over 60,000 copies off the first edition. It became what, like you said, people call it the Bible of e-commerce. That's not me. That's what people say. And if you look at it, it's not your average book, right? My publisher, everybody that we worked with told me that it should have been 3 books because we would have made more money with it if I broke it into 3. Now, in hindsight, probably so. But my idea is like, when I wrote this book, and I just revised it, right? So that's what we're going to get to. But I wrote the book because I was so sick and tired of what is out there in the market. There's so much noise and bad information and everything else. And people are struggling. And I was like, okay, how can I reach the biggest market? They're not all going to come to my event. They're all not going to buy my programs. They're not going to listen to me or listen to my podcast or anything else. All right, what's the next best thing? All right, a book, mass market, low cost, but most people put fluff in it. I'm like, I don't do that. I'm going to give you the kitchen sink, and literally, it is the complete playbook of what you need to do to build, grow, and scale a business. Now, when I wrote it, it was cutting edge, but that was 2016. Now we're in 2021, almost 2022. A lot has changed. Now, fundamentals still the same in here. I didn't change the fundamentals. It's like changing the fundamentals or changing the principles. That's like manufacturing antiques. You can't manufacture an antique, right? It has it's timeless. It is an antique. Or a truth. You didn't invent a new truth. If it's a truth, it's always been the truth, right? Yeah. So those kind of things stay the same, but all the supporting elements and what's new and how we've learned how to do things differently, that's in here. Now, when I wrote this book is 378 pages in its current form. When I rewrote it, I rewrote every single word. I deleted 2 chapters, added 3 chapters, and completely revised the other chapters that were in there because what we found, again, we're talking 2016 to now, over $500 million, actually more than that, but of sales results and data collected, we're talking, millions upon millions of individual sale transactions and ungodly amounts of split. Now, I'm not saying I split test all this stuff, guys. Don't get me wrong. I've got 73 full-time people on my staff, and we've got revenue optimization experts that we train internally through our internship program. We have Google data engineers. We have 15 or 20 developers. I can't even remember how many we have now. We have bug checking teams. We've got this whole infrastructure, right? So collectively through the team, we've done all this stuff, and all that data is now condensed down into this book because the game has changed again. When I wrote the first version of the book, we could not duplicate the performance of a sales funnel on a store. So the first version of the book talked very heavily about using the sales funnel as the front end acquisition lever and then using the store to back cleanup.
Right.
Now, through revenue optimization and what we know, we have been able to create the sales funnel-like results on a store. But the best thing about a store is that stores actually have LTV. Nobody who buys through a funnel wants to buy through that funnel again. They don't go through funnels a second time. Now, what they do is if they're on continuity, you got some LTV. But if you want to sell to your customers again, you need something else. A store lends itself to that much better. Also lends itself to wider product lines. There's not a ton of stores that lend themselves well to funnels. Print on demand, for example.
Yeah.
Print on demand in a funnel, not so much. Have I done it? Yes, but with one SKU of print on demand, not multiple SKUs, right?
Yeah.
So this book basically takes you through all of that. And, the first, not even the pre-chapter is the 12 principles of e-commerce. I'm going to tell you, you read the first one, they're going to be the exact same because, again, I'm not manufacturing antiques here. The principles stay the same. But everything else in here, the first chapter, let's see, which one do I want you to talk to you guys about? So we've got 12 core principles of e-commerce. And then chapter 1 is my favorite, which is traffic is not your problem, which is where I slap you upside the head and show you why focusing on traffic is the worst thing you can do. And I'll give you metrics and everything else. Chapter 2 is revenue optimization. That's where we give you into it. Chapter 3 is the beginner's guide to it. Chapter 4 is think before you sell. Then we move into your target market, competition, exploit your data, Google Analytics, advertising channels, front-end marketing, back-end marketing, email marketing, all of that, including advertising budgets and spends and breakdowns like that. Now, I'm not telling you how to buy traffic, but I'm telling you how to structure your business like a business. Nice. And so that book, so there was actually, this book could be all you ever use. And I've always said that, but it was always kind of like a thing like it could be that way. But at the Build, Grow, Scale Live 2019, I had a guy come up to me, and his testimonial and video is actually on the sales page if you want to see it, where he came up to me and he said, "Hey, I just wanted to say thank you." Actually, two guys said that. One guy, a different story. His is on the sales page too. But this particular guy said, "Hey, I was broke. I lost my job. I was living in my warehouse. He was a chemist. And he's like, I bought your book and I didn't have any money. So I basically was able to get a little, some concentrated CBD. I diluted it and made it into a pet product. And I sold, it was basically $100 and I turned it into a $50,000 using your book." He's like, "I've never bought any other courses on marketing or business or anything else. I've only read your book." And he goes, "Now we're the number 4 pet CBD brand in America."
Wow.
He's not an ecom insider. He's not an amplified partner. He's not in anybody else's things. He just literally used the book. Now, does that work for everybody? And is that what I want you to do? Hell no. I want you to buy the book, love the book, and then want to work with us more. Like, that's business. But, and honestly, if you do just buy the book, I'll never get to know you. But if you join our Ecom Insider program or our Business Blueprint programs or come to our event, then I get to know you. And that's the trade-off for me. That's what I love. So yes, I want that. But the value is in the book.
And you get to reach so many more people, so much more people with the book.
Yes, absolutely. And that was actually the goal. Like that's kind of a legacy play. I want it out there so people have it. And if they're like, "I can't afford a coaching program," that's great. Get on Amazon. It's $18. Everybody can afford $18.
Exactly. Now, about BGS Live this year, I'm super excited because the last time you've done something like that was in 2019, 2020?
Yeah. So our last event was August of August or September? August of 2019, I believe. And then there was a couple other events after that. But since that, they weren't really ecom. But since our event, there has not been an ecom event. I'm pretty sure, because I hear about all of them, I get invited to speak at all of them in the world. Okay. There's been ad conferences and things like that, but not ecom specific events. So this will be the first large scale, which is e-commerce
live in-person
event since the start of COVID and all the mess. And, so like you said, it's the largest e-commerce conference in North America, which is a cool woohoo. But what does that mean? It means that it's where people congregate. Like all the stuff that we've been talking about is what we share. Now, our event is not a bunch of random speakers on stage. Okay. It's our team. It's the real experts who are doing everything. So, and it's a cohesive system where we're basically teaching everything that's working is taught in a cohesive system. So you go in there and you have actionable stuff every step of the way. Rather than listening to 10 different speakers, 4 of which you say, do one thing. And one of them says, no, do something else. And then you're like, well, what do I listen to? Which can be fun. But you're like, if you're going to go to an event, if you're going to do anything, you need to go with an outcome, with an expectation of getting something valuable. And that's what our event is. And that's why so many people have come to it. This will be our 5th year of doing it. It has been every year up until this whole COVID BS. So anyway, that's the event. But this year, especially, I'm expecting it to be probably our biggest event ever. Not because I want it to be, but because of the state of the world and the state of the e-com market. Okay, so a couple things. Number one, everybody, including me, is sick and tired of being stuck at home and like not congregating. Whatever, it's time to get back together. Everybody believes that. We're starting to get out and everybody's desperate to go and get back to some normalcy. It's going to be normal where we're at, right? The other thing is this is the most upheaval and uncertainty the e-commerce marketplace and industry has ever seen in one time period. More people are struggling. I told you about the ad agencies. They don't know what to do. Their only way you get through and people get through a time like this is to come together, powwow, and use the collective brain power of everybody to, basically push through. We will get through this. This is not doom and gloom for e-commerce, guys. I want you to believe that. Everybody's going to get through this. It's just going to take time. But kicking off the new year with the best and brightest of the e-commerce world, it's not just us, because all the people who come are all the biggest movers and shakers in the industry as well. All in one room, networking, talking shop, sharing experiences and examples and all that kind of stuff. And it's all open the kimono type stuff. We don't hide anything. We're there. We have our entire team on hand in the room, our developers, our data guys. So if you have a question, wave one of our team down. They'll look at your site right there. Like there's no other company in the world that would actually make their team available to you as part of the event. The speakers usually are hiding in the green room, but we don't even have a green room for that reason. We want to be out there with you guys. So highly recommend, if you're in the e-commerce space, you set this time aside in January and come. Early bird tickets are still available, so you can save a ton of money. Just go to buildgrowscalelive.com. And guys, I'm not pushing or pitching you the event. I just know the power of what our events do. And I also know how badly the world needs it right now in the e-com industry specifically. I know you're hurting. I know you're struggling. We're hurting. Everybody's hurting. You're not alone in it, but you feel alone until you get into a room with people like us and we all get together. And then you realize, hey, together we can do it.
Exactly. I think that the value of just that alone is so much more, knowing that you're not going through it alone and knowing that there are options available to you. Like people have tried this and that. And I'll say this, Build Grow Scale Live is one of the events that I've heard of since day one of starting Chronos of my business. And it's been one of the events that I've been wanting to attend and kind of working my way up to being like feeling that I'm qualified enough to be in that group of people, because it's such a high level of
it's a high level event.
Yeah, it's so high level. I think the quality of people that you have in the event is so incredible. Everyone that
right? who you hang out with, the average of the 5 people you hang out with or who you attain, right?
Yes.
So if you're like, man, I'm too small or whatever, no, that's the only way you're going to get up. Like, ride on the shoulders of giants, grab onto coattails and the motto at Build Grow Scale, aside from get shit done, is, and our whole belief system is, a rising tide raises all ships. And that's why we have our community and everything else. And if you go to one of our events and ask somebody, if you say, you went around and you go out and say, hey, what's one word that describes BGS? Like, to the people who are in our community, and we have videos of this all over the place. Every single time they say family. Nobody else has that. And that's what I'm most proud of that BGS has built. We have built a family of e-commerce people and entrepreneurs and rock stars who all believe that a rising tide raises all ships up. When someone's down, the rest of us pull them up. When they're up, they pull us up. And together we all get better.
And it shows in the results and the quality of entrepreneurs that come out of the ecosystem that you've built and the community that you've built. So
the funny thing is that most of the coaches that are out there coaching are my students or were my students at one point.
I know.
They'd have to be because I've been in the industry for so long. And most of these new guys are like 11 years old or whatever. They're in their 20s.
100%, yeah.
But anyway, we talked about me plenty. Like what can I help your listeners with? What else do you want to dig out of my brain that I can help them with?
I think because you've been in business for such a long time, especially in the e-com space, I want to go a little bit more personal in like your journey and kind of reflecting upon the 19 years of being in business in the e-commerce space. What are and these are going to be kind of just quick fire stuff.
That's fine.
What are some of what's the worst advice you've ever received as an e-commerce entrepreneur along the way?
The worst advice I've ever received.
Yeah.
Man, I've received a lot of bad advice. So the worst advice I ever received, I would say there's two things. Number one is that general stores will outperform niche stores.
Ew.
And that the general store is a joke. You know why people pitch general stores and they sell general stores? Because it's easy. It's like, hey, you don't have to think. You don't have to put any work out. You can throw up project and they'll say, hey, what you do is you list this product and you make it sell. And then when it stops selling, you list another product and it just starts selling it. You don't have to build a new store or whatever. How stupid is that? You're not building any value there. Let's say you're selling a hair curler and you sell 25 million hair curlers. That's awesome. And then it quits. And then you're like, okay, well, now I'm going to sell a USB charging station because that's the next product that's trending and it's hitting. You start trying to sell that, you got to start over. New ads, new market, new demographic, new everything. All those sales that you made, 99.9% of them aren't going to translate to that new market. It's just dumb, but it preys on your greed emotion and lazy emotion of saying, oh man, I can make a lot of money and I don't have to put a lot of hard work into it. So that was one of the worst pieces of advice I was ever given. The other big, I would say really, really bad piece of advice that I was given is that you don't need any money to start. And yes, can it be done? Yes, but it's way freaking harder. And then like I see this a lot. I see people who are like, I quit my job. And I'm like, do you have a business yet? No, I'm just dedicated. I'm burning the ships. Tony Robbins said, burn the ships. And I'm like, yes, he does say that, but he also says it in context. You're choosing to hear what you want to hear. You know, it's so, I promise you, having your side hustle while having an income that takes care of your bills and your family and everything else is much preferable to having your back against the wall and eating top ramen. Can it be done both ways? Yes. Have I experienced both ways? Yes. I haven't like this whole overnight success or I'm this big hot shot or whatever. I've seen the lowest of the lows. Like I've been in the top ramen, you know, how am I paying my bills? You know, that kind of thing. Like I've been there
Guys,
more than once. And
listen,
it sucks. But
absolutely listen to this. Yeah. I think a lot of people are kind of just preaching the idea of, you just gotta burn your bridges and just leave no options behind, and you have no options but to succeed.
Now, I do believe at a certain point,
that's insane.
That's probably true at a certain point. Like when you're, you know, once your business can support your lifestyle and you have savings in the bank to cover a rainy day, then yes, you have
that's smart.
You have to cut the ties and act to go full time if you ever want to grow and scale. You'll never hit that success you want otherwise.
But to start with that's insane.
Nuts. You're literally like it takes money to build a business. It takes money to run traffic, to buy product, to test. And the thing is, you're going to lose money at first. And it's not losing. It's an investment in the testing process, the iterative process of building a business. That's just how it works. But you got to have some money to do that, or a way to you don't have to do it of a lot, but you got to have some. So, you know, I'd say those are the worst two.
I agree. Perfect. Tanner, a lot of people look up to you and what you've built and the stuff that you teach. many people consider you a mentor to them, whether you know it or not. Who are some of your mentors that you currently look up to, that you strive to live up to?
Yep. So one of mine is, we're not currently quite as close as we have been, but I consider him a near and dear friend. His name is Vinny Fisher. He owns a company called Fully Accountable, and he's actually owned a bunch of other companies. But he's definitely a mentor that I have followed and been and like had as a mentor for years. And he's stuck by me through some of the lowest of lows and things like that. And have I always listened to his advice? No. Have I regretted it in many cases? Yes. Has it come back to bite me and him be able to say, I told you so? Yes. But he's definitely one that I look up to. Another one that I like, I don't know him well. I've only met him, I think, once, but I again, like, follow him. And I really kind of analyze the way he's lived his life and built his life and changed around, is Garrett White. I love what Garrett has done. I love how he's transformed his life. And is also transforming the lives of others through his Wake Up Warrior program. And, he's definitely polarizing, which I appreciate, because I think you have to be polarizing in this market. If you appeal to everybody, you appeal to no one. But he basically doesn't take, it's got to the point where it's like, you're a liar. Everybody's a liar. And until you take control of yourself and admit that you're a liar and that you cheat yourself and everything else, you're never going to get to where you want to get. And like, it's so raw and real. And I've found that out in my own life multiple times. When I saw him talking about it, I'm like, yes, that's right. And anyway, he's also a fantastic marketer, super smart business guy. And he's just, the way he structures and facilitates things it's incredible. So he's one of the guys I'm watching as well right now. And another one, quasi mentor who I hope to be a real mentor in the very near future, is Keith Cunningham. Keith Cunningham wrote The Road Less Stupid, and it is one of the absolute best books ever. And it's not a specific ecom book or whatever business; it's a business book, and but it's not sequential. So any chapter can be read at any time or whatever. And my habit is, I usually listen to it every morning on the way to the gym. So whatever chapter's on is what on, and I listen to it for 15 or 20 minutes, and then that's it. And I've listened to it probably 20 times or more, if not more at this point. Some chapters more than others, but every time I listen to it, depending on my frame of mind, I always pick something else out of it that I can apply. And it's phenomenal. And if you guys don't know Keith's story, he built $100 million business in the real estate boom back in the 80s, and then lost all of it. And through the lessons, learned how to, what happened, what didn't work, and how he made all the stupid things, and talked to all these people, and then rebuilt it and rebuilt his success and his fortune. And he's just phenomenal. Wow. But he also calls it like it is. So anybody that I follow typically is a
straight shooter, right?
Yeah, straight shooter for sure.
Yeah. I love that. While you're listing those names, I was just Googling everyone right now. I'm going to buy all their books right now. Awesome.
Yeah,
so
they're good.
Vinny Fisher.
Yep.
Garrett White, and
then Keith Cunningham.
Keith Cunningham.
So Vinny doesn't really. He has a book out, basically about getting to know yourself, kind of thing, which is good. But his main company, Fully Accountable, and it's great for the e-commerce space. It's an outsourced CEO company and bookkeeping service that loves working with e-com businesses. So it's really great. But that is awesome. Again, he's been there with me through my lowest of lows. One of the things that I learned that I teach at BGS is how to, this would be, I guess, probably the third piece of bad advice is hustle, grind, outwork, and just take on more and more and more and whatever. And that's the way to get successful. Now that's the way I became successful, but it came at a cost. And there's a smart way to work and a smart way to build a business, and there's not. And there's a way where your business owns you versus you owning your business. And I got to the point in 2015 where my business owned me so badly. I was making millions of dollars a year. I had the life and the cars and the houses and everything that everybody would want. I was in my, I was young. I had my daughter at the time, my wife and everything. And we were just like the perfect, everybody wanted, I wish I had what they had kind of thing. And then 2015, I was in Orlando, Florida, getting ready to host BGS Live. And we had the penthouse. It was awesome. My wife, my daughter were there. She was like a toddler. And I was sitting in the office in the penthouse, and I was doing some work while my wife and daughter were in the bedroom. And this was the day before the event. And my world had just been like getting so much more intense and everything. Money was great, but I was basically, the business owned me. I was working myself to death. And I tried, but I could not drop the balls, right? I had so many balls in the air. I felt it was so important to keep it going, and not realizing that, hey, the reality of life is that some balls are going to drop. Some balls have to stay in the air, and you have to just make your peace with that. And the world doesn't end when some of the balls drop. But what happened was I got up from the desk and I walked around the desk, because the desk in the office was here, and you go out in the hallway, there's a dining room and a living room, and then you go down the hallway to the bedroom. And I walked around, and I made it about 4 steps past the dining room, which was halfway to the bedroom, and I collapsed. And I was laying there quivering on the ground. My daughter found me, and she's like, I think she was three, something like that. And she found me laying there on the bed. I couldn't say her name. I couldn't get up. I couldn't do anything. She starts crying and screaming, "Daddy." And then my wife comes running out. She sees me. She screams. And like, that was when it all came crashing down. And so I got taken to the hospital, and the doctors pumped me full of drugs and did all kinds of tests and gave me shots of who knows what and everything. And they said, "Hey, you look like you're in shape." And I was shredded. I was like 7% body fat. I was 185 pounds. Like, I looked like a bodybuilder. But 3 weeks prior, I had failed a life insurance medical exam. Wait, now those are super basic, right? They're like that. You could be a fat slob and still pass a life insurance medical exam, but I couldn't pass one in the best shape of my life. I told my wife, "Oh, if they made a mistake, we'll take it again. It's fine." I didn't want to believe what was happening. Get to the hospital because after my collapse, and they said, "Hey, you're 6 times more likely to die than someone who has heart disease.
What?
Your life is killing you. And you have to change now." Because the stress levels, the intensity, the everything was just literally killing me. And that was when it manifested in that first collapse. They told me I couldn't do the event, and me being me, I was like, "Screw you guys. Like, I got 600 people waiting for me. I'm doing the event." But I got to do the event, but the hotel had an on-site doctor who, every time I came off stage, I had to go check in with the doctor, and he checked my blood pressure and adjusted what I needed and everything. And then, but after that event, I went pretty much dark for a while, because I had to learn how to undo what I'd done. And the reason is, like, I had lots of money, but my family would have been much happier had I been poor but alive than if I money and dead, right? And I know your friends and your family and everybody in your life and your listeners' lives feel the same way.
Yeah.
I had to learn everything over again. I knew how to do it one way, but that's not the way people, and that's what everybody's teaching: hustle, grind, all that stuff. But there is a smart way to build a business, because the only reason we're building the business is to deliver the future to the people we love that takes care of us. And so after that, I rebuilt everything the right way. And that is literally what we teach, and I feel my life's purpose is in that aspect of BGS, and anything else that I do. I have another book that I'm writing that's all about that and everything else. And it's not a money thing. But that's very important. And I feel people don't realize that, and they get sucked into this money hustle. And pretty soon they wind up hating life, even though they may have money, but they hate their life, and their health is suffering, their family's suffering. And during this whole time, you're not a good person. I was not a good person to my family. Like, I was a great provider, but when I was playing with my daughter, was I present? No, I was thinking about work, and I was checked out. Or she'd come into the office and I'd be irritated because I'm trying to get more work done. Or my wife, you think I had a great relationship with her when I was in this phase? You can't. It's impossible, because you were so consumed. So you got to figure out what you're actually doing it for, and never lose sight of what you're doing it for.
I just want to take a moment to properly digest all of that, and I think it's a good wake up call for myself, and I believe for a lot of people listening. There are a couple of schools of thoughts that I've come across. Some of my mentors have told me that life comes in seasons, and at the beginning, when it's about survival, you got to switch off some stoves, and some fires have to go off, and you got to make it work. And once you've made it work, you have to be conscious about when the season has passed and when it's time to switch up the stove on family, on your personal health, and all of that stuff.
Right. There's no such thing as work-life balance. It's a myth. That's an absolute myth. This goes back. Now, first of all, I'm 100% in agreement with seasons of life and all that. That's one of the things I learned from Vinny, and it's so true. You're always in a different season, and some things that they're not right for you in this current season may be right for you in a different season. 100% agree. But this whole work-life balance thing, this goes back to all the balls in the air, or you're spinning all the plates, right? You got You're trying to balance your work, your kids, your job, all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, then your parents, your families, your whatever else. Here's the thing. Plates keep getting added. And one of the most powerful words that you need to learn in your language is no. But when I learned how to say no, I made more money. I had more time. My family was happier and everything else. It's when you can't say no that these plates keep multiplying. Even plates that seem like they're a good idea, like a new venture or a new product line or a new this or a new that. But the thing is, the reality of work-life balance is there is no such thing. Something is always going to get more than others, and some plates or some balls are going to crash. What you have to do is identify what ones cannot crash and cannot fall down. And you keep balancing those and you do your best, but other ones are going to come crashing down. And you're going to realize that after that happens the first time or two, life goes on. The world doesn't end. The sky doesn't fall. And your life continues on and you're able to adapt. And pretty soon you have less plates spinning, but you're spinning them better. But there will always be trade-offs. You're going to focus. They're going to focus more on your family sometimes, and business is going to suffer a little bit. That's a trade-off you have to make. This whole thing, like, build your business so that it works better without you, and then when you're gone, it makes more money. If you did that, you suck, and that means that your business is better off without you. Because if it does better without you in it, you should not be in it.
Yeah.
Okay. This is all shit that, like, the whole 4-hour work week and all that crap. Like, can it be done? Yes, in very rare instances. But the reality is that most businesses are not 4-hour businesses. Yeah. And even the ones that do generate 4-hour a week work week usually took hundreds of hours in prep to generate, perfect example. I'm fairly involved now, and more so, and I have been since 2017, but like in crypto, I do a lot of crypto stuff. I've been doing a lot more lately. And right now, NFTs are real popular, right? Everybody's heard about NFTs, whether you know what they are or not. You hear tons of people talking about them, right? Now, everybody thinks that NFTs are this instant 4-hour work week type money. I'm going to launch an NFT and I'm going to be rich. And I'm not going to have to do any work. And they're so easy to do an NFT correctly, or anything. It's like a product launch. It requires a massive amount of work in the beginning, and then consistent marketing to do. So it's hype. It's this belief, that the grass is always greener somewhere else. And it's not.
Yeah. The work has to come in. The work has to come in somewhere, somehow, sometime.
Yep. There's no substitute for a shovel.
Oh, yeah.
At all.
100%. Tanner, respecting your time, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been a blast talking to you. If we get the chance, I'd love to do a second episode with you.
Absolutely. You tell me when and we'll do it. I had a good time.
Tanner, thank you so much. What's the best way to connect with you, find out more about your businesses and what you do?
All right. So the easiest way to do anything is just go to buildgrowscale.com buildgrowscale.com.
Just buildgrowscale.com. Yeah.
Yeah. Or the other one, if you want the book, ecommerceevolvedbook.com, or you can find it on Amazon. If you got Prime, go to Amazon, you get free shipping, all that. That's awesome. Either of those two ways. But if you want to see all the other stuff we do, buildgrowscale.com. Now, I will tell you that we are like the roofer. Okay. If you're a roofer, the only person's house that leaks is the roofer's, right? Because he's so busy taking care of everybody else. So if you look at our website and you're like, man, that's a little dated. You're right. It is, because we're so busy working on everything else.
Exactly.
But the information is still there. And I'm saying that because it's one of our topics of discussion this week to finally get off our butt and get our website done.
I feel the same way. Tanner, thank you so much